This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community. Yeah, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Maya. I'm currently a junior studying industrial and systems engineering here at Viterbi. And our other co-host, Paul, he's the executive director of undergraduate admission for Viterbi. He is off doing some work, speaking to some prospective students. He's traveling. So today it is just me and one of my friends, Victoria. Victoria, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Victoria, and I'm a junior studying mechanical engineering from Inglewood, California.
Awesome. And your episode today is about USC Makers, correct?
Yes. And Makers is a team-based electronics club that we have here on campus. Basically, we'll get into groups of like 5 to 7, and we'll work on a IoT project for the entire year. And these ideas are thought of by students and also managed by students. So it's really fun.
Super cool. I guess let's just get straight into it. Let's listen to the podcast and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Hello, everyone. I'm Victoria Pinkett. I'm a junior studying mechanical engineering at USC. And I'm a part of Makers, which is a team-based electronics club. And today I'm here with 2 wonderful members of Makers who I've had the pleasure of being on projects with, and who are also on the executive board. So if we could have you guys introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about your role on Makers, that'd be great. We can start with Pooja.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pooja Kaushik. I'm a junior studying computer engineering and computer science. I joined Makers in the spring of my freshman year, which was during COVID, and I've been in it for 3 semesters now. I'm currently serving as the director of membership.
I'm Elizabeth Finley, and I am a sophomore majoring in biomedical engineering. This is my 3rd semester in Makers, and I joined in the fall semester of my freshman year. And I'm the director of internal operations for Makers, which revolves around being in charge of our makerspace and just making sure that everyone gets the supplies they need.
And then I can also mention that this is my 4th semester of Makers. Isn't it your 4th too, Pooja?
Oh, yes. My bad. I've been in it for 3 semesters. This is my 4th semester.
Yeah, but I also joined freshman year, 2nd semester. And then I was wondering, you guys, both Makers legends, Makers OGs, more than a year in. So can you explain in your own words what is Makers, and then also what drew you to Makers?
Yeah, I guess I can take that one. So what initially drew me to Makers is that it, at its heart, is an engineering design team. But I think that over time, like, Makers to me has just grown into like being 2 things. It's the people and the projects. So Makers, what we do is we have about 80 members and we break into teams of about 7 to 9, and we build things for the sake of building them. And these projects can range in like usefulness and like practicalities. So we have projects that monitor the health of your compost, and we also have projects that are animatronic unicorns that play the drums. So I feel like I love the diversity of Makers, and that's really what's led me to stay and what makes it such an important part of my time here at USC.
Yeah, I think you just said that really well. But to like go over as to why I joined Makers, to be honest, I kind of found out about Makers when Jenny, who was our former president, my first year in Makers, came to my freshman academy course and gave her little spiel. I was like, oh, this sounds fun. Like, I might as well apply. And here I am. So at least I know that you should just apply for things because you never know what may happen. But despite that, beginning, I think Makers has grown into my favorite club on campus, which my other clubs don't really like when I say, but I love Makers because it's like great to get a lot of engineering experience as a biomedical engineering major. I don't think so far I've had that many chances in my major to get like actual hands-on experience, and I love that Makers provides that. But I also love the community aspect, like coming in as a first semester freshman to Makers. It was nice to be able to have people that I could like talk to and be friends with right away. And I think it's really cool that some of those people are still really close friends to me today. So yeah, Makers is just a really great community and just a lot of experience.
I think like going off of a couple of things that Elizabeth mentioned, like learning by doing is such a big part of Maker's motto. Like joining as a freshman, I feel like I didn't really have a ton of technical experience, but every week in our project meetings, like it was like, oh, like here's like how you like hook up an RPi. And like given like my first semester was all over COVID. So even like virtually, it was just such a good way to meet people and to like feel like I was being like a hands-on engineer and not just doing like Calc 2 and physics and all the things that you kind of get roped into as a freshman in college.
Yeah, I would say this, it's similar for me. I feel like I've always been interested in electronics and definitely like as a mechanical engineer, I was like, oh, like I don't know like if that'll necessarily be addressed in my classes. So when I heard about Makers, I was like, ooh, like let me join. And I went to showcase like the fall before I applied. And I was like, these people are so funny. Like I was like, I'll only go on for like a couple minutes, but I was there for like the entire 2 hours, just like laughing. I was like, this is fun, and you could see that the people there, they like really enjoyed Makers, they're really passionate about it, but also like knew how to have fun and like were funny people. So I really enjoyed it. And then also, like I said earlier, had the pleasure of being on a project with Pooja this semester and then working with Elizabeth last semester. So could you guys just talk a little bit about the projects that you've worked on in the past and the ones that you're currently working on, since we just received our new projects, and what was your role in those projects?
So I've been on 2 past projects before, even though this is only my 3rd semester in Makers. My first project was a semester-long project, and basically what we did is we made a Bluetooth controlled car that could draw a line. It was like kind of battle bots, except the robots weren't supposed to actually attack each other. They're just supposed to be able to draw a better map than the other one. I still don't know how to describe it exactly, but I just remember it was really fun at Showcase. And then my other past project with Victoria was Robot Rock, where we made a animatronic that could play the drums. That was a lot of fun. It was really interesting though, because when I came in, I joined my 2nd semester freshman year. Most of the project was already done, so it was kind of just adding on to the original project. And then currently I am part of Ramsey Bot. It's kind of hard to describe it because we haven't started working on the project yet this semester. But based on my understanding of the project, we're trying to make a robot that can test your food. I think like, for example, your soup, and see if it's like needs more salt, has too much salt, or is at the perfect salt level. But yeah, for all these projects, I've mainly done mechanical work because I am a mechanical emphasis in my major. I did do some electrical work for my first project with the Bluetooth control car, but that was mainly just sensors. But yeah, otherwise mainly mechanical.
For me, I've also been on 2 past projects. So my first semester in Makers, I was on this project called Wizard's Chess. And if you've seen Harry Potter, it is directly from the Harry Potter's movies. We built a electromagnetic chessboard where you could move the pieces by talking to them. And then the board would play against you using the chess AI library. one of my favorite things about the project that I didn't work on was the mechanical component. So when you'd capture a chess piece, it would explode. Not really, it would like split apart with a magnet, but I think that sounds so much cooler. And I was working on the electronics for this project. So we were working on calibrating our motor system and making sure that all of our drivers worked well for the board. And then last year, I was a project manager for my own year-long project. It was called Craniarm, and it used EMG sensors, which measure your muscle contractions in order to build a robotic hand. So kind of some of the things that we did with this project were in the fall, we were really working with the EMG sensors a lot to make sure that they were working well and that we were able to get good data from your hands. And so at Fall Showcase, we played Flappy Bird. So every time you squeezed your hand, the bird would jump. And then in the spring, we kind of converted this into some mechanical impulses with our machine learning. So we were able to like detect which fingers you had open and closed. And we played rock, paper, scissors against our robot, and it would always win. Well, most of the time. And so that was a really cool experience. And then this semester, actually this whole year, Victoria and I are on a project called Waterbender, which is a curtain of water that can form different patterns. It'll be a really cool intersection of art and technology, and we're hoping that'll be a really cool display when it's done.
Yeah, that was great. I loved hearing about the projects that you've been working on. I know that was it Wizards Chess was definitely something that I saw at the fall showcase, and I was like, this is like the coolest thing. And like I have to join this club right now because it was so cool. But yeah, I've also been on 2 past projects, and I'm on a project currently. My first major makers project was heat press. We basically built a heat press as the project was named, but a heat press is a device that can make patterns on shirts. You basically just heat it up and put designs on them. So that was something that I got to work with because, as I said, it was my freshman year, sophomore semester. So like I really did not know a lot of engineering skills, and I was actually on a team with all seniors. So it was really nice just to hear they were so knowledgeable. I was like, I hope that's me one day. But they gave me a lot of expertise on heating and just overall mechanics. And I really enjoyed that project. And then kind of at the end of the semester, it was all on Zoom. But at the end, just to construct and build the project, we all got to meet together on a Saturday and just grind it out. I got to use drills and saws, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed that. And then last year, as Elizabeth mentioned, I was on Robot Rock, the robotic drumming project. I was also on the mechanical team with Elizabeth there, and we worked a lot on just designing the robot in general. We used solenoids to hit the drum, so it was a lot of figuring out how to position the solenoids and where to put it. So when the solenoids actuated, there wasn't crazy movement, and it also it made a good sound. So that was fun. And then also at the end of the second semester, we built a llama corn, which is a real animal. It basically just made its arms move like it was drumming. So that was really fun. And then for Waterbender, like Pooja mentioned, I'm on the mechanical team. So we should also be working with solenoids on that. We just ordered a couple this past week, but working on positioning the solenoids and then just the overall casing and design for the project, since we're using lots of water and we don't want that to splash everywhere. So, yeah. And then my next question, I think, Elizabeth, you touched on this earlier, but Makers definitely has an application process and an application and then an interview as well. And then Pooja, I know as membership director, you're in charge of that. So if you could just speak a little bit to what the application process is like for Makers.
Yeah, so as part of my role as director of membership, I help oversee our recruitment process. And our recruitment process consists of a written application, which has just a couple of get to know you questions. And what we're really looking for there is a passion for making. So this doesn't mean that you have to have a ton of technical experience coming in. I know I certainly didn't, but we just want to know that you're interested in learning and building and creating and collaborating with other people, because all of those are so essential to being part of the makers community. We're also looking for a good fit. So makers definitely works really hard on our projects, but we also really pride ourselves on being a really good group of people to be around. Like some of my favorite makers memories are just like studying with other makers. Like I love running into people that I know in makers on campus. So that's something else that we look for. And we look for teamwork experience. So can you work well on teams? Because something I love about makers is that like the projects are really tough and like really ambitious, but you're never doing them alone. After that, we have a short interview process, which really is just meant to be a conversation. It's just to get to know you and for you to get to know us. We also do a bunch of recruitment events throughout the fall and spring, the start of the fall and spring semesters. So like Elizabeth mentioned, we'll go into the freshman academy classes. We'll hold info sessions. We like to do an Arduino tutorial for people that want to learn more about electronics. And so there's just a ton of opportunities to connect with us and get to know us and see if it feels like a good fit. This semester, we just welcomed a new cohort of 17 makers, and they are all so fun, and I think they're going to be such a great addition to the club.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I remember for my makers application, there's definitely like some fun little questions in it. They asked us our favorite YouTube video, and I thought it'd be really funny to like include to rickroll the people. And then they mentioned it during the thing that I got in trouble. Not in real trouble, but they were like, you barely made it through because of that. So I thought that was fun. Elizabeth, you're also on eBoard. You're the director of internal operations. And I know you deal a lot with the tools that we use in Makers and our own makerspace. So if you could just explain about that, say the name, our very special name for our makerspace, and what kind of
100%. So my role as director of internal operations basically involves a bunch of different random tasks, but my main thing that I'm in charge of is Robert, which is the Maker's Makerspace. I want to shout out Peter Park, who is the one that submitted that name, that ended up winning the names competition. But yeah, Robert is basically this room in the basement of EEB where Makers has most of their events and meetings. And in Robert, we have 2 3D printers and a bunch of different supplies. We also just recently got a soldering oven, I think, donated by a maker. So it's filled with a bunch of like Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, different tools. We got event stuff in there. It basically has anything you may possibly need for a project. But also the good thing about Robert is that there's a budget for Robert. So if we ever need more supplies, which is currently my task, is going to be ordering these supplies for new projects. I get to order them and they come to Robert. The other nice thing about Robert is that it's not just for team projects. So makers can come and build personal projects in there too, especially if we have the 3D printers for makers. But yeah, besides that, a lot of my role is just making sure that projects are running smoothly with supplies and that everyone has everything they need. It's really just being there and helping out where I can and making sure everything runs smoothly. It's hard to put in words, but yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Making sure Maker doesn't die.
Yeah. You were the first director of internal operations?
Yes,
Yeah. The original.
The first and second because I got the role last semester and I still had the role. So
awesome. Yeah. Look at this. Celebrities, influencers on the podcast.
I was on the Maker's Instagram. I did do an Insta story takeover. So
oh yeah. Follow us on Instagram at USC Makers.
Yeah.
Yes. Follow us on Instagram. Okay. And then segueing to just more cool things about the people you can see on Instagram. Tell us about the Makers community. I know you mentioned that's one of your favorite things about the club, Pooja. So you could just tell us about the community makers and then social events that we have besides just making stuff.
Yeah, so I think you talked about it a little bit earlier, but the makers community is like so many things. I think you mentioned a little bit about mentorship. I feel like coming in as a freshman, I felt like I didn't know anything like technical, non-technical. It was just so cool to be around people that were really fun and like very enthusiastic about the makers community. Something I really love about makers is the people that you get to spend your project time with, but also just the general makers community. So I mentioned earlier, like I love like coming into EEB and seeing other people in makers just working there, hanging out. Like you go in there and there's like a 50% chance you'll see someone there from makers. I think I'll talk a little bit about some of the social events that we do. We do things like paint nights and movie nights, and we like built a 3D printer together last year. And all of those are like coordinated events that we put on typically once a week. But there's also just a lot of like low key chill moments, like study nights after meetings, like going out to get boba. I remember like the weeks before showcase are always really hectic when we're trying to put our projects together and make sure everything looks great, or at least works. And last year before showcase, like my team was like just trying to like get our video together and make sure everything was running smoothly. And we were in EB and it was like 1 a.m. and we just started doing karaoke. And it was so fun. And it's just like a memory that I'm always going to remember. And I think that that really just encapsulates like, I mean, as I said, like the projects are tough, but you're never doing it alone. And it's always just a good time.
Yeah, going off of that, I do agree with the fact that you can really run into any maker at any time in EEB. It's kind of insane how often there are makers in EEB at all times. But yeah, I really love the social events that Makers has. I remember the retreat for last semester, we went to the beach. That was really fun. In terms of like just getting to chill out, because I feel like most of the time it is an engineering club, so you see people like trying to work hard on their projects. But it's nice to see people with their hair down. I didn't get to go to the retreat this semester, which is kind of sad, but I heard it was a lot of fun. So I don't know. I think Makers is really cool because I'm in the Biomedical Engineering Club, and I just don't think they have the same social events that Makers does. So it's nice to be able to be a part of an engineering club that's like engineering, but also like chill, and you can like hang out with people and be friends with them. Not that I'm not friends with people in my other engineering clubs, but I think it's just a different vibe. But yeah, I think Makers is really cool in terms of that community aspect.
So you mentioned how you were the only freshman on a team of seniors. Last year, I was a project manager, which means that you're like really having the high level perspective on your project and making sure that your vision comes to life. But I was the youngest person on my project, and that was something that was super scary going into it. Like I felt again like I didn't have the technical skills. I wasn't sure if I'd like be a great leader. But what I love about the makers community is that like everything, there's no pressure. We're not a competitive club. It's really just about making things for the sake of making them. And I felt so supported by my team and everyone else in makers. That was such a good learning experience for me, and it turned out so much better than I could have ever imagined.
Awesome. And then I know, Elizabeth, you just mentioned the retreat that we had a couple of days ago. I wasn't able to go either, but I know Pooja was there. Highlights from retreat.
Okay, so we went camping as a club last weekend. We went down to the Santa Ana Mountains, and it was so fun. This was our first post-COVID overnight retreat, and it was so good to just like get away from campus and spend time with everyone. We ended up like we wanted to do a waterfall hike, and it was a really short hike, and we were super excited to like get to the waterfall, and we get there and there was no water, just rocks. And so we start like scrambling up the rocks. We like take photos. It was so much fun. We like cooked dinner together that night, played a lot of games. I know Elizabeth's a big fan of Mafia. I'm so sorry that you missed it, but it was just such a good opportunity to see everyone outside of like the project grind and, outside of EEB.
Yeah, I know there were also some huge spiders there. So that's not something I'm glad I missed that. Because I don't think I could have done it.
I did not have to see the spiders. I feel like maybe my experience would have been different if I had to like go to bed knowing that there was that big of a spider next to me.
Yeah. You guys mentioned your majors earlier, but Elizabeth, you're biomedical, and then Pooja, I know you're pre-med as well. So how have you guys been able to apply and explore concepts that you've learned in your classes to makers projects?
That's a good question. Have I been able to apply concepts that I learned on Maker's Project? This is kind of hard because I've only like completed one biomedical engineering class, which was Introduction to Biomedical Engineering. I'm in a class right now for biomedical engineering, and actually it probably would have been helpful for Pooja's project because it's about neurons and like action potentials. But Pooja's project is not happening this year, so that's I'm not able to apply to that. I think instead of my major being able to be applied to makers, I think it's more like makers being able to be applied to my major. Because like I mentioned earlier, I think I've been able to pick up a lot of skills that I wouldn't have through my major classes, at least at this point in my young sophomore career. But yeah, it's just been stuff I picked up here. Like I took a Python class, but I learned how to use like different tools and how to like code in makers. So that's been really helpful, especially in trying to get recruited this year. So I think it's more like makers helping my major, so my major helping makers. Not that, but B&B should definitely apply to makers. Is what I'm saying. You'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot.
I think Elizabeth said that really well. I think my major is computer engineering, computer science. So I feel like that's like right in the middle of what makers does. But I feel like, again, like sometimes like classes just get really, really theoretical, and it's hard to see like how they can be used in like a real life engineering situation. And so just like an example of this is right now I'm taking EE 301, which is linear systems, and you're learning a lot about like data processing and like how like a Fourier transform works. And all of these were just like buzzwords to me a while ago. But last year when I was working on my makers project, we were taking in EMG data and processing it using a Fourier transform. We were like picking out features from the frequency domain. And again, like all of these just sounded like big words, but now that I'm seeing them in my classes, they like make so much more sense because I got to see how they're actually applied. Talking a little bit about being pre-med and engineering, I think something I love about makers is that the projects are so diverse. Like especially as a project manager, you have so much leeway in the direction that you want to take your project. So for me, like I always knew that I was really passionate about the intersection of healthcare and technology. But I didn't want to do something that you'd see in like a research lab. So I felt like my project was just such a cool way to like explore biology, but as an engineer. And that's definitely something that I feel like is an opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I definitely think I'm mechanical. And at first I was like, ooh, like I don't know like if they'll need me, if they'll accept me. But definitely like a lot of makers projects or all makers projects need mechanical people, need people outside of electrical and software. So I think I've definitely been able to utilize a lot of things and learn a lot of things. I know I'm taking like my first CAD course this semester, but I've already had to do so much design work for makers and then actually be able to like print it out and have it work and fit. So I definitely feel like makers has been like a great way to supplement my classes and then just like make things that I'm learning in my classes easier. So I definitely think you guys said it right. And then could one of you guys describe what Showcase is? I know we have a fall and a spring showcase, and just like what that experience is like.
Yeah, so Showcase is our way of showing off our projects to the wider USC and like LA community. We've previously had professors at this. We invite our families, recruiters. So it's just a really good way to show off all the hard work that everyone's put into their projects. Last year we had semester-long projects, but we're not doing those anymore. All of our projects are year-long now. But our fall showcase really shows as an opportunity to present our MVPs, or a minimal viable prototype of your project. It's just a little checkpoint in the middle of the year to show off what you've gotten so far. But spring is our big event where we present a finished project. And as I said, like, makers projects aren't competitive. Like, we're just presenting these to the world. And they're always really cool. I think, as Victoria mentioned, like, they're always so fun. I feel like all of the presentations, you can really tell like how much everyone cares, and it's just a very good experience.
Anything to add, Elizabeth?
I don't think I really have much to add. I think we just summed it up pretty well, but I do want to note that at our spring showcase last year, we had the Dean of Viterbi pull up. So, I mean, just saying, the showcases get some well-known guests out here. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also food. So, you know, if you're hungry, go get some food at Maker Showcase and look at all the projects that people worked really hard on.
That's what my friends did. They like came to my project and then they came like back like an hour later to get food.
I had one of my TAs do that. It was great.
And then Pooja, if you could talk a little bit more about your experience as a PM, like the skills you learned, whether that's like hard skills, soft skills, and kind of what your role is as the PM of a project.
Yeah, so as a PM, you're really, as I said, responsible for the high level overview of your project. And I really like how I described it earlier, like making sure your vision comes to life. And so as a PM, you can apply after your first semester in Makers to be a PM. And over the summer, you're responsible for coming up with a project idea. And we do a lot to help you out there with like brainstorming workshops and like pitch nights and talking to our alumni and events like that to help you flesh out a project idea that feels both like ambitious, but also within the scope of a year. We help match you with a team that can complement your skill set. So as I said, I was the youngest person on my team. So a lot of my team members had experience in machine learning and data processing. And we had a mechanical engineer to do all of these things that kind of help the project come together as a whole. After that, like, you are given your team and it's really up to you to figure out like how you want to lead and how you want to help this project come together. And a story I think I've said about being a PM is I came into my first team meeting after I'd met my team, and we all sat down, we were chatting, and I just wanted like everyone to feel comfortable. And all of a sudden, like the room got quiet. And I realized like they were waiting for me to say something. And that felt really scary then. But like over the course of the year, it's just such a good way to build up your soft skills as an engineer, which is something that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough in your classes. So how do you like scope out a project? How do you manage a budget? How do you timeline things? So Makers is known for its pre-showcase like crunch time work, but you really have to set up a strong foundation throughout the semester to make sure that your project can be everything that's meant to be. So all of those I'd say are really, really important skills. To be a PM, you don't have to have a lot of technical experience. I really liked like having that strategic overlook. I was the only like bio-focused person on my project. And so I feel like that was a really interesting way that I could contribute my background and my interests to the project while also kind of bouncing around like the technical teams.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm so glad that you're able to have like such a great experience as a PM. Your project was great. And I know you worked with your team really well. Awesome. So I want to thank Elizabeth and Pooja for speaking to me about Makers today. It was a really fun conversation. I hope you guys all have more information and are coming to Showcase in fall. Do we have a date yet?
December 1st.
December 1st. We will see you all there.
And also apply for spring semester. I know that Makers is technically a club under the umbrella of electrical engineering, but we look for applicants from any major, including those outside Viterbi.
Exactly. So everyone apply and everyone come to showcase. Awesome. Thank you guys. And we're back. I want to thank Elizabeth and Pooja again for having that conversation with me. As you can see, Makers is not only like a really fun club, but it's also a club where you get to apply and then like expand on a lot of the things that you learn in classes. And especially if you're like an underclassman, it's a really good way to kind of even get ahead. They talk about that a little bit, where it's like, oh, I'm learning things now that I was doing in Makers like my freshman year and stuff. So I think it's definitely a great way, and a great way to also meet upperclassmen as well who have lots of knowledge.
Yeah. That's been, I think, my favorite part about being involved in clubs at USC. It's just getting to meet upperclassmen and hearing about all the cool things they did. Like, I feel like my conversations with upperclassmen, I've been like, oh, like that's something that I'd want to do. Like, I had no idea that even existed.
Yeah, totally hear that we're like upperclassmen now, because I definitely don't feel like I'm like as the people were when I was a freshman.
Yeah, absolutely. These past years have flown by. I think I can't tell you how many times I've introduced myself as a sophomore this year. Then I'm like, wait, I guess I just have like, we're more than halfway there.
I know.
Like fingers crossed, we're more than halfway there. But like theoretically, we are we are more than halfway there. Well, awesome. Yeah, I really loved that you chose to include like Makers and spotlighting all the different things that are important about this club, because I think it's something that a lot of prospective students would be interested in. Like a lot of engineering students, doesn't matter what type of engineering, but everybody's just curious as to how they can apply what they're learning in their classes, or how they can actually come up with this tangible product with like the culmination of all the stuff that they're learning in engineering. So I think it's really cool that USC has this awesome club where people can get to practice that as an underclassman, like you were saying, or like as a person in college. And then you can turn to like internships or future employers. You can be like, oh, like this is a project that I've actually done. This is something that I like worked on. And I think that experience is really valuable as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know coming into my freshman year, I had like a list of clubs. I was like, oh, I'm going to do like all these clubs. I'm going to get involved. And Makers was not on there. I'd never heard of Makers. And then all of a sudden, I just received like an email from the department once that they were looking for mechanical engineers. And I looked it up, looked at all their projects. And I was like, this is so cool. I got it. So just want to spread the word.
Yeah, totally. Awesome club for all of you guys who are listening. Some of my really good friends are in that club. I absolutely love it. If I were not overextended myself, I would definitely want to join Makers. So maybe senior year,
Yeah, have fun. Join the team.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I guess, is there anything else fun that you're doing this weekend, Victoria?
I'll still be going to the game just by myself. Or I'll go with my roommate. And then there's also a Black family dinner held by the Black Student Assembly. So I'll be going to that as well on Friday, tomorrow.
Oh, that'll be fun. Where is that dinner? Do you guys get good catering?
Yeah, it's at the Ronald Tudor Campus Center, like in the basement. So it's real nice down there.
Okay. I feel like all the events that are in the basement of the campus center are just they look so nice. They're so fun.
Definitely. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have fun with that. Thank you again for bringing us a great episode. And for those of you who are listening, we'll see you back here next Sunday for another episode.